What is going on YouTube? I'm FPL Yusuf and welcome back to my channel where today we are going to be discussing the first blank of the season in FPL, game week 26. We're going to be talking about players that we should be looking to buy, maybe players that maybe we shouldn't be looking to buy, and a whole lot more. So without further ado, let's just get right into the video. Okay, so as you guys can see on screen, at the time of recording, it's currently Tuesday afternoon. So we're halfway through double game week 25. And to be honest with you, it has not been one of the best ones in recent years. We've had injuries, we've had players missing chances. About everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. So as you guys can see on screen right now, I'm currently on 40 points, which with a triple captain active is not saying it. It's not the one. I'm hopeful though. Tonight, obviously, Haaland plays against Brentford, so hopefully we can get some more points there. And then Liverpool playing again tomorrow. Obviously, Jota is looking highly unlikely he's going to be back. Darwin, we're not too sure as of yet. He might be back. Maybe he starts on the bench. At this point, with the amount of points that I've got, I will take any sort of appearance from him. It's a little bit, it's a weird one because it's kind of like what could have been. I mean, I don't know if any of you guys watched the Man City game and the amount of chances that Haaland had, which is very unusual for someone like him, not to take any of them. I think we just got to put it down to why it's one of those freak results where on another day that's like a 60 to 80 point like game just from one player, especially with the triple captain active. But you know, we still got two more games to go. Got the Brentford and the Man City game, which as you can see, I've got, you know, Ivan Toney, Haaland, Foden. So we've got a few players in that. And then obviously the game tomorrow on Wednesday where we've got Luton. So I've got Kaminsky, Doherty, Virgil van Dijk. Hopefully Darwin will play a part in that as well. So we still got some games to go, but it's been a very underwhelming start to the double game week so far. So let's just get on to the next part of the video, which is going to be solely around game week 26 and the potential transfers that maybe we should be looking to bring in, and players that we should be looking to get out, obviously with blanks coming up. Okay, so I think there's only one place really to start, and that is with one of the players which I think a lot of people will have owned, and that is Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now, he is going to be out of the Carabao Cup final. It's looking highly likely, which is a shame because before he got injured back in, I think it was game week 22, he was looking really good. There was points coming in. He was attacking. He was getting bonus points. Obviously, he's re-aggravated his injury, which has ruled him out of this Carabao Cup final. And I think it's just time to move him on. Obviously, he blanks in 26. So if you still own him, I think it's time to sort of dilute that money down and look elsewhere. The real question is, who do you replace Trent for? Now, there's a couple of avenues you can go. As you see, I've left some examples on the screen. I think the first one you have to look at is another Arsenal defender. Now, bearing in mind, a lot of these options are going to be dependent on who plays in game week 26 and who plays in game week 29, because I think that's a big thing which we need to think about. Unfortunately, we won't know who plays in game week 29 until next week. So just before game week 27 deadline, we will know the actual confirmed fixtures and confirmed teams of who's playing in there. The reason why I've gone for Arsenal on this, and you see I've got both Gabriel and Saliba, because if you don't own one, I do think that there's still points to be gained from owning both of them. Arsenal obviously do play in 26. They play against Sheffield United in 27. It's looking unlikely that Arsenal play in 29. However, if Chelsea somehow lose to Leeds, then obviously the Arsenal versus Chelsea game will go ahead. To be honest with you, I think with Arsenal, the way they're defending at the moment, they are looking so good. I think I would just take them anyway. Even if it means you free hit it in 29, or say you didn't get 4-11 out and you had to start one of them even though they're not going to play. I still think the points you could make from 26 to 29 with an Arsenal defence would probably make up for that game week. So I think Gabriel is obviously the cheaper one to own. Saliba a little bit more expensive, coming in at 5.7. I think, to be honest with you, there's not really much separating them. I think Saliba is probably better for bonus points. Gabriel is maybe just a tiny bit more of a threat from corners and set pieces. And obviously Arsenal has been so thorough with their set pieces this season. When you saw a couple of weeks ago that both Saliba and Gabriel got on the score sheet in the same game from a set piece. So it could be either one of them. But I think if you're looking to downgrade Trent, I think that is the first avenue I would look at, is an Arsenal defence, just because of how good their clean sheets are. Okay, so the second defender that we're going to look at as a Trent replacement is going to be a little bit of an obscure one. It's going to be Marcus Senesi. Now, I know what you might be thinking. It's a bit of a random one to have a Bournemouth defender coming in. Obviously, they play Manchester City this coming week. So if you are going to bring Senesi in, it wouldn't be to start him, right? You'd have him on the bench and you'd have at least 3 defenders in front of him who could cover this week. The reason why I like Senesi so much is, one, it frees up a lot of money. Trent down to him is I think it's about 4 million. The difference between, I think Trent's currently 8.5 and Senesi's 4.5. The reason why I like him is after game week 26. So game week 27, Bournemouth played Burnley. And in game week 28, they have that really nice double where they play Luton and they play Crystal Palace, I believe it is. So those three fixtures for Bournemouth in particular are very, very nice. And Senesi coming in at quite a cheap option. Bournemouth they've been all right defensively this year. They haven't actually been too bad. I do think that I could see clean sheets coming from those games. And Senesi does offer somewhat of a small attacking threat. I think it was a couple of weeks back we saw him get back-to-back hauls. I do believe he's playing left back then. I think he's gone back into the centre now. But the point remains, he's a cheap defender. It frees up a lot of money from Trent. And he's got very good fixtures after game week 26. We won't know whether he plays in game week 29 until the Wolves and Brighton game happens. So that is something to bear in mind as well, that when you're looking at these type of players, as we mentioned with Arsenal, Bournemouth too, there is a chance that they may not play in 29. And for me personally, I'm going to give you one more alternative after this, where you can see the guy on screen is Mr. Pau Torres. And the reason why I'd be just bear in mind when you're making your transfers about who does play in 29, because you don't want to bring someone in now who then you're going to have a problem with in 29. If you're going to free hit, then it doesn't matter. I would say go for Senesi. He's got good fixtures coming up. But if you're someone like me who's going to try and hold their free hit chip till after game week 30, planning for that game week 29 could be quite crucial. Now, the other guy on screen, as you can see, Pau Torres, is like a godsend on this. He plays in game week 26, which is a blank. He plays in game week 29. We know that those fixtures are guaranteed to go ahead. And to be honest with you, with the amount of injuries Villa have got, he's pretty much nailed to start. I think Pau Torres would be a nailed starter anyway, regardless of whether they had injuries. I think he was just trying to get him back up to his own fitness. But I like him. I think Villa got some decent fixtures coming up. I wouldn't say they're amazing, but they are decent. And of course, the big talking point is that they play in both 26 and 29. So that's one less thing you actually have to worry about. Okay, so moving on to the midfielders. Now, Diogo Jota. What is happening with this guy? So it didn't look great. He came off on a stretcher just before half-time in the Brentford game. I think it surprised a lot of us. I don't think any of us were really expecting him to go down with an injury, and let alone one that looks as severe as that. Obviously, at the time of recording, we haven't heard anything else. Hopefully, we'll get a press conference from Jurgen Klopp at some point this week to hopefully give us an update on how bad the Diogo Jota injury is. However, I just think, even if by some miracle he was fit and available, I think now is the time to get rid of him. Obviously, Liverpool are blanking this coming week. They've got a couple of tricky fixtures. They play Manchester City in 28, I think it is. Very high probability that they will blank in 29 as well. So I think now is probably just the time to sort of come away from Diogo Jota. But the question is, where do you go? I think the obvious answer right now is Bukayo Saka. He is a little bit more expensive than Diogo Jota, so you would have to find the money to make that jump. But Arsenal are just playing so well at the moment. They are just scoring goals for fun. Saka's on penalties. He has great data. He's very good for bonus points as well. And the price difference isn't that much. It's about 0.9, almost a mil. So it's not like you're trying to break the bank to get him in. Obviously, if you own both Trent and Jota, when you downgrade Trent, you will free up that money to make that jump. So I think Bukayo Saka, for me, is top of the list. As you said, there is a possibility that they don't play in 29. However, the games, especially in 27 against Sheffield United, I think that is the one that, going into it without an Arsenal attacker, which I currently don't own, is what's worrying me a little bit. So Bukayo Saka for me is number one on that list to replace Diogo Jota. Second option to replace Diogo Jota is a little bit more of an obscure one. It is Alejandro Garnacho from Manchester United. He's a lot cheaper than Diogo Jota, so you would be saving money in the long run. Garnacho's an interesting one. I think right now with Manchester Would I don't know how I feel about Garnacho. I think he's a great enabler for his price point, and he's guaranteed in minutes. I think if I personally, he would be third in this list for me. As you can see, the other one is Mr. Hwang Hee-chan, who I'm going to get onto in a second. Garnacho, he's got Man United have got good fixtures coming up, and they are starting to find a little bit of form. However, for a Manchester United attacker, me personally, I think I would kind of just want to invest in Højlund as opposed to anyone else. I think Bruno's playing too far back. Garnacho, when he plays well and he hauls, he does come away with big points, but I think it's either a haul or it's a 2-pointer. And majority of the time, I just don't know how much I would back Garnacho over the likes of Hwang or Bukayo Saka. So I think for this case, I put him in there because he is the cheapest out of all of them. And some of you might want to free up budget maybe to go get Mo Salah back or to make other moves elsewhere. So I put him in there. Me personally, he's currently sitting third on this list though. And the final player to talk about is the player that I will personally be bringing in this week, and that is Hwang Hee-chan. Now, he has got a great fixture this week at home to Sheffield United. Cunha is still ruled out, which will more than likely mean that Hwang will play up front and hopefully will be on penalties for Wolves. So his upside is amazing. He's down as a midfielder, so it's an extra point for a goal, extra point for a clean sheet. And Wolves do play well. they've scored in pretty much most games this season. I haven't put Pedro Neto in here because I think Hwang's just got a higher up ceiling on this one. I think he's got more routes to point. He's going to be playing up front, as I said, because Cunha's not available. So I think Hwang, for me, coming in at 5.5 as well. But not only this, Wolves have got very good fixtures after this. They play Newcastle in 27, which, Newcastle defensively haven't been great. So it's not, I couldn't even say that it's a bad fixture. And after that, they've just got greens and greens up until about game week 32, I think it is. So buying Hwang now is not just for this game against Sheffield United. Obviously, you want him for this one, but it's also for long term. I think the one thing I will also say is that just bear in mind the same with Bukayo Saka is that he's not guaranteed to play in 29 yet. Obviously, before 27 deadline, we will know who's played in that, and they will play Brighton in the midweek, so we will find out. But I think Hwang is a fantastic option and is an outside captaincy choice for me. Now, on to the forwards and on to Mr. Darwin Núñez. As I said earlier in the video, he did pick up what was supposed to be an injury. I'm not sure how bad it is. We're not sure whether he'll feature tomorrow against Brentford or not. I'm keeping everything crossed that he does because I need the points. But like I said with Diogo Jota, even if he wasn't injured, I think now is just the time to come away from him and just to get away from those Liverpool assets. So which players do we bring in to replace Darwin Núñez? The first one, as you can see on screen, I think has to be Dominic Solanke. Same as Senesi, he has got a very difficult fixture this week against Manchester City. I would feel more comfortable playing Solanke over Senesi though, because Solanke has these games where he can return against quote-unquote big sides. We saw him get a haul against Newcastle in this double game we just got him. So I know Newcastle aren't defending great and Manchester City is like a whole different ballgame there. But the point is that Solanke can return on his day, could return against most teams in the league. And Manchester City have tendency to lose concentration for little points in the game. I can see the odd goal here or there. Solanke would free up money, so he's about 0.5, 0.6 million cheaper than Darwin, so you would be saving money there. But most importantly, as I said, Solanke for this week, okay, he's got a bad fixture, but you want him for 27 and 28, where he plays Burnley, Crystal Palace, and Luton in a double. Though that is why you want Dominic Solanke. So for me personally, I think that is going to be my second transfer this week, where I look to move out Darwin and go for Dominic Solanke. Now the other player I put down here is Ivan Toney, and yes, I have chosen him over Ollie Watkins. There's two reasons why. Number one, listen, Watkins is a great player and he's been so good all season. He really has been. I don't know whether I like the Aston Villa fixtures as much as maybe has been talked about. Now, granted, I know Brentford haven't got good fixtures either until after game week 30. And Villa, I don't know whether I trust those fixtures. They've got a few nice ones in there. I think they play Luton at some point. They've got a few good games. But for me personally, I'm not as big of a fan as maybe what others have been saying about the Villa fixtures, which is why I've gone for Ivan Toney on this list. I think Ivan Toney, for me, is as close to fixture-proof as you could probably get from a player, in such that even though Brentford just played Liverpool, they lost 4-1. Who got the goal for Brentford? Ivan Toney. And to be honest with you, I watched the game. He could have had a penalty as well in that game. And obviously, his routes to points, penalties, he's so good at them. Usually when he scores, he is going to be on for bonus points. So I think for me personally, Ivan Toney is just, also he's a minutes monster. He's guaranteed 90 minutes, providing he doesn't get any injuries. He is guaranteed to play through the 90 regardless of what's happening, regardless of whether Brentford are getting absolutely smoked or they're clean and they're just winning game after game after game. Ivan Toney will play from minute 1 to minute 90. So for me personally, I've gone for Ivan. He's a little bit more expensive than Darwin. So again, you would have to find the money to move him up. I do think it's worth it. They've got a very good fixture on paper against West Ham this weekend, who just aren't playing well. They're not keeping clean sheets. Ivan Toney is also a lock in game week 29, which prevents one less headache, as is Ollie Watkins, I should mention. But yeah, for me, it's either Dominic Solanke or it is Ivan Toney. Okay, so what you guys can see on screen right now is a new concept which I'm going to start adding to my transfer target videos. So my aim is to put up my transfer target videos either on a Monday or a Tuesday at the start of the week. And what this is going to be, it's going to be a section which I do at the end of each video every week, where we look at differentials for the upcoming game week. Now, bearing in mind, the criteria I've got for this is that the differentials will be under 7.5% owned. So anyone above that percentage, I'm not going to include them as a differential. So it's got to be players who are 7.5% owned or less. Now, as you can see on screen, I've got 3 players here. The first lot, I had to put both Hwang and Neto in there. Now, the reason I put both of them there, I will be only doing 3 differentials a week, and I will tell you guys which one I like the most. But with these two, they are so close owned, it's unbelievable. I think Hwang's 3.5% and Neto's 3.3% owned. Hwang's 5.5 million and Neto's 5.7. They are so close together in so many different statistics. I just had to put both of them, but also because I will have both of them going into game week 26. I already own Pedro Neto, and like I said earlier when we were discussing the midfielders, Hwang will be one player that I bring in. So I really do like these two. They've got a fantastic fixture against Sheffield United, and that's one thing just to mention is that these differentials will be as a sole 1 week punt. So any differentials you see on this section, it will just be solely for the upcoming game week. It's just by chance Wolves have very good fixtures after that, so it's not like you're just going to bring them in for one game week and that's it. They have got good fixtures for the next sort of 6-7 weeks after. So Hwang, Neto, both down as midfielders. I think Hwang's got the bigger goal threat. Neto's probably got the bigger assist threat, but both are viable options. Now, the number 2 man on there, as you can see, is Mateta from Crystal Palace. Now, I was thinking about this one, and it was between him and Odsonne Edouard. Obviously, you know, we've heard the sad news. Obviously, Roy Hodgson got taken into hospital, and, you know, I think Crystal Palace have got a new manager in now. Mateta did start the last game they played and did come away with an assist. The reason why I've gone him over Edouard is that Mateta had played 90 minutes in that game, and I think Edouard struggles to get through the 90. He usually gets taken off between 65 and 75 minutes. So I think solely for the minutes aspect of it, I put Mateta down. Now, at this point of recording, he's like 0.5% owned, so he's a major differential. I think the hard thing about him is trying to fit him into a striker spot at the moment. With so many players, we've got Tony, we've got Harlow, we've got Watkins, you've got Solanke, Darwin, like people, you know what I mean? There's so many different strikers at the moment. It's very difficult to go and get an outside player, especially like that's coming. The positive that he does have is that Crystal Palace have got a decent run of fixtures coming up. So they've got a couple of greens in there and a couple of fixtures which, if they play to their strengths, he can be very useful. But yeah, like I said, he's in there as a sort of punt. He's very cheap. So if you were looking to free up money and say you weren't fussed about that third striker spot, he's someone that I would highly recommend. Now, the last one is Adingra from Brighton. Now, I think he's gone under the radar quite a bit this season, actually. He's obviously come back from winning the African Cup of Nations with Ivory Coast and had a fantastic tournament out there, by the way. He's just come off the back of a brace, ironically, before recording this against Sheffield United. Now, granted, I know it's Sheffield United, but come away with a 15-pointer. He's currently, I think, like, he's so low owned. I think he's like 0.6% owned at time of recording. So he's very cheap. He's 5 million. So I think he has a lot of upside to him. I think the hard part is trying to get him into the midfield because I think a lot of people would rather go for a Hwang or Neto, someone who's sort of like more nailed, someone who guarantees you the minutes. Whereas Adingra, there's always a chance of rotation with Brighton. I think you just have to accept that, whether it be Ferguson and Welbeck, João Pedro rotating up front, or we know when Solly March comes back with Matoma, you've got Buenanote, you've got so many different players that they can interchange with. So I think that is one thing you do have to bear in mind. However, I have put him on this list. I'm going to put him in number 2 ahead of Mateta. So we'll have Hwang and Neto, I think, are the best options for differential. I think Adingra at number 2 is a fair and viable option. And then Mateta is just like a complete outside punt if you're looking to rise up your mini leagues and try and win them. But yeah, so all three of them on screen are obviously, as I said, under 7.5% owned. And like I said, for me personally this week, I will be bringing Hwang as my differential, as one of my transfers as well. I will have both Hwang and Neto owned. So yeah, if you guys like this, just let me know in the comments down below and I will continue to make this a running theme at the end of every transfer target video. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up the video for today. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you have, please drop a thumbs up and subscribe down below. It would mean a lot to me and I'd be very, very grateful and appreciative of that. I'm going to be back. I'm going to try and get 2 more videos to you guys this week. So I'm going to try and record a wildcard draft for 26 because I've seen a lot of people in the FPL Twitter community have been talking about the possibility of maybe wildcard in 26. For me personally, my advice to you guys would be just to wait an extra week because like I said, you would get the information of who's going to play in game week 29 through the FA Cup fixtures. But what I will do is I will drop an upload of a wildcard draft solely for game week 26 and then I might do a wildcard draft for 27 next week. And then hopefully on either Thursday or Friday, I will drop a final thoughts / final team selection video for you guys to watch. We'll just go over some of the final key points. Hopefully we would have got some press conference news by then, maybe about some injured players, and we'll go over who's got the best fixtures, final kind of like key ideas around like who we should be bringing in, who should we be starting, and just a whole load of that, just getting ready for the Saturday deadline. So like I said, once again, thank you so much for watching. I'm very, very grateful for all the support you guys have shown on my last 2 videos. You know, the views are starting to go up, so thank you so much. As I said, I will be back hopefully tomorrow with 1 video, which is a wildcard 26 game week draft, and then hopefully I'll be back either Thursday or Friday with the final thoughts. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.